On a lakeshore near Mount Rainier, a comet slows down. It stops. It comes in for a landing, and then it just breaks apart in a burst of white light. And when the people watching lift their heads, exactly 4,400 strangers are standing on the beach. Every one of them vanished at some point over the last 60 years, some in the 50s, some last week. The earliest was a little girl taken in 1946, and not one of them has aged a single day. No memory of where they went, no idea why they're back. They only know they're home now, in a world that kept moving without them. Husbands remarried, babies grew up, their houses belong to strangers. The government doesn't know whether to treat them like victims or like a bomb about to go off. A federal agency locks them up and starts asking questions. And the frightening part is, nobody has good answers, because these people didn't come back empty. They came back with abilities and a purpose. Someone reached across time to take them, remake them, and return them all at once, for a reason that will take a whole season to surface. The only question that matters is the one nobody can answer yet. Are the 4,400 a miracle or a threat? This is the entire first season of the 4,400. We start with the vanishings. A girl named Maya, plucking flowers in 1946. A young black soldier in Korea, beaten for loving a white woman, then swallowed by light mid-beating. An insurance man in 1979, gone from beside his car. And in 2001, two teenage cousins on a beach at night, Sean and Kyle, until the light takes Sean and drops Kyle unconscious and alone. Kyle never wakes up. 3 years later, he lies in a coma while his father, NTAC agent Tom Baldwin, keeps watch. Tom's new partner is Diana Skouris, and on the day a comet turns into 4,400 people, the two of them catch the strangest case in the world. The returnees get quarantined, then released to a terrified public, and that's when the powers start. The insurance man, Orson, feels his old firm cheat him out of everything, and his rage shatters glass and impales a man he never touched. Telekinesis he doesn't understand. Little Maya calmly names the cemetery her foster parents will be buried in, and they send her back, frightened. Sean touches a dead bird, and it flies away alive. Tom and Diana chase Orson to a lake cabin 70 miles out, where his grief spins into a telekinetic storm he can't stop, bleeding everyone in the room, until Diana has to put a bullet in his shoulder to end it. Meanwhile, that soldier, Richard, tracks down Lily, granddaughter of the woman he loved back in 1951, and she turns up pregnant by no one. Her ex-husband denies it and serves her a restraining order. So two people the world threw away decide to hold on to each other instead. And Sean, cornered and scared of himself, slips into the hospital, grips his comatose cousin's hand, and pulls Kyle up out of the dark for the first time in 3 years. Carl Morrissey was a nobody, a fish counter clerk who got taken and came back with lightning reflexes and real strength. Mugged in a bad park, he drops his attackers like nothing and decides that's the point. He was given power for a reason, so he becomes the park's private guardian angel, scrubbing graffiti by night and beating down predators. Back at NTAC, Tom and Diana keep circling the same question. Why send a child back able to see the future? Why any of it? The science points them toward aliens, which is wrong, but it's the only story that fits so far. The threads keep tightening around the family. Lily starts feeling the baby's thoughts, its fear bleeding into hers. Kyle flickers with brain activity, and Tom traces the visit to Sean, who swears he did nothing. Tom doesn't buy it. Diana narrows the vigilante down to Carl by one clue. He smells of day-old fish, but before they can reach him, Carl walks into one fight too many, and a whole gang piles on. They find him bleeding out on a park bench, and with his last breath, the man who was so sure he'd been sent back for a purpose tells his wife he was wrong. Then Tom races to the hospital and finds Kyle's bed empty, his son in surgery, his brain on the line. Now the 4,400 have a face. Jordan Collier, a slick returnee millionaire, goes on TV promising to organize his people against a world that hates them. He gathers them at the lake, hands out badges, builds a movement, and when Sean tries to confess he can heal people, Collier stops him cold. He needs to be able to deny things. But Tom and Diana are hunting a darker returnee, a serial killer named Oliver Knox, back after 21 years, and the murders in his old town starting up again the moment he sets foot home. The trick is the confessions. Every time Knox kills, a different man walks in and confesses to all of it, then hangs himself. One of them was 5 years old when the killings began. Another was left-handed when the killer clearly wasn't. The math is impossible, which means the confessions are lies planted in innocent heads. Then they get it. Knox can push his mind into other people and make them kill and confess for him. Hands clean, alibi perfect. They corner him with a knife at a woman's throat and take him alive. And back at NTAC, a chilling thought lands. Whoever returned the 4,400 handed abilities to a monster. Maybe they aren't saviors at all. Then Tom walks into the hospital, and there's Kyle, sitting up, awake, asking how long he's been in the dark. Kyle is awake and wrong. He can barely speak to Sean. He's driven to read, driven to draw a map he doesn't understand. Something is using him. Outside, the fear turns to fire. The 4400's names and addresses leak to the public, and the bombings begin. A firebomb goes off at Richard and Lily's door, and he shoves her clear just as the baby sends a wave of pain through her. Another returnee dies when a bomb is planted in her truck. Collier moves Richard and Lily into a gated community he built, and the government sends a hardliner named Littell to NTAC to push a harsher line, while Ryland digs up dirt to silence the loudest anti-4400 voice on television. Diana tracks the bombers to two brothers avenging a murdered relative and catches their real target just in time. A van packed with explosives, headed not for Sean's house, which was a decoy, but for Collier's whole complex. Tom and Richard intercept it at the gate, shoot out a tire, and the van tips and blows without killing anyone. But the real horror is quiet and inside Tom's own home. Because by the end, Kyle finally understands what's happening to him. He is not Kyle Baldwin anymore. Something else is living behind his eyes. Kyle speaks in short, measured lines now, following an order only he can hear. And Tom, watching his son be piloted by something else, comes to believe there's only one place that can explain it: the beach. The exact shore where the 4400 came back and where Sean was taken. So Tom and Diana break Kyle out of quarantine and drive him to Highland Beach. And there, through his son, Tom is pulled into another version of that beach, where the thing controlling Kyle finally speaks. And it tells him everything. The 4,400 were never taken by aliens. They were taken by humans. People from Earth's own future, reaching back across the decades to lift them out of time, rewrite their genes, and send them home with powers, not at random. As a rescue, there is a catastrophe coming, and the 4,400 are the future's attempt to stop it before it starts. Every strange thing this season, Orson's rage, Carl's death, the ripples they left behind, was a move and a plan. And Kyle is the messenger, the voice they built to deliver the message. The people on that beach weren't a miracle, and they weren't a threat. They were an intervention. The future had already decided the present needed saving, and it had only just begun. 1 year after Highland Beach, the secret is out. The world knows the 4,400 were taken by humans from the future and sent back changed to stop some catastrophe nobody can name yet. Tom Baldwin has spent those 12 months riding a desk, punished for the exact insubordination that cracked the whole case open. His son Kyle sits under observation at NTAC, poked and tested, while everyone waits to see if the future personality that once wore him like a coat left anything behind. Diana pulls strings with Nina Jarvis, the new head of the Pacific Northwest Division, to get Tom back in the field. She's also quietly adopted Maya, and quietly ignored the fact that Maya still sees what's coming. Out in the mountains, Richard and Lily are on the run with baby Isabelle, 6 months old, and hiding from Collier and NTAC both, until a local reverend named Josiah decides the child is the devil and needs killing. Back on the road they go. Meanwhile, Jordan Collier crowns himself the public face of the movement and opens the first 4400 Center, a place promising ordinary people they can unlock the 4,400 power inside themselves too. Tom's nephew Sean has left his family to become Collier's protege, using his healing hands to court the rich donors who keep the lights on. Kyle sets out to deprogram him, to pull him back to the family. It goes badly. Sean stays. And at Abinson Psychiatric Hospital, a paranoid schizophrenic returnee named Tess has taken a kind of mind control grip over the orderlies and inmates, directing them to build a strange, elaborate machine out of her own drawings. Tom and Diana stand in front of the thing with no idea what it does. Neither does anyone else. That, it turns out, is more or less the whole season. Ordinary people handed impossible gifts, building toward a shape none of them can see, and the question hanging over all of it, the one the show never stops asking: are these 4,400 the thing that saves us, or the thing that ends us? A former ballplayer named Gary comes back hearing every thought around him at once, a scream of voices that only stops with pills. He walks into NTAC asking for help, and NTAC's new boss Nina Jarvis takes his pain and turns it into a weapon instead, sending Gary undercover to spy on Collier, whom she suspects is stockpiling for a war. NTAC thinks Collier is meeting a Zimbabwe CEO named Dravitt to buy guns. Gary agrees on one condition: that they teach him to control his gift. gift. Inside the center, Collier quizzes him about his ability, having studied every returnee, and Gary lies that he has none while reading the dismissal right off Collier's mind. Then a handler confiscates Gary's medication, insisting he was only conditioned to need it. His telepathy spirals into agony. The sting collapses. Dravit's men catch Gary listening and cornered in Collier's office, begging him to make it stop. His cover breaks. Tom, Diana, and Sean rush in, Sean forcing a bodyguard to his knees, and Gary reads the truth off the room. Collier isn't buying weapons. He's planning to take over a small country outright. Afterward, Nina informs Tom that Gary won't be going home. He's useful now. That's the whole reason anyone keeps anyone here. On the road, Lily uses baby Isabelle's influence to pop open a cheap motel's cash register and steal for diapers. And Richard, disgusted, refuses to eat what she buys, then watches the infant drop him to his knees, clutching his chest outside a store. The child's reach is growing. So is everyone's nerve. Trent comes home after 16 years gone to find his wife dead and his grown daughter, Elise, buried in debt. Then his luck turns, because he discovers he can accelerate the human metabolism, melting fat off a body almost instantly. Word spreads, and the Fortune 500 lines up to buy the ultimate diet in a bottle, each company scrambling for the rights. Then the people who sample it start dying, the runaway metabolism eating them alive from the inside, and Tom and Diana shut it down before the count climbs. Same pattern every single week now. A gift that's really a loaded gun, and somebody always trying to sell the ammunition. Richard, Lily, and Isabelle find brief shelter with another 4,400, still nowhere and everywhere at once. At the center, a pop star joins Collier's cause and pulls the cameras in, while friction builds inside the inner circle around the handler Devon Moore. And Kyle, trying to reclaim the teenage years the coma stole, hits a fraternity party and starts blacking out, losing whole stretches of time. He tells himself it's just the drinking. It is not the drinking. A junior high teacher named Heather comes back 30 years later a muse, able to draw genius-level talent out of the kids she touches. Virtuoso music and art blooming overnight. Most parents weep with joy. A frightened few call it abuse and file charges to strip her license. Tom and Diana find no crime, only a gift, until Heather meets one boy, with no light in him at all, nothing to draw out, and that emptiness turns on her, becoming a threat of a very different kind. Meanwhile, Richard gets recognized on the street as an AWOL 4400 and arrested by a cop, and who bails him out but Jordan Collier, spending the favor to reel the Tyler family closer to the center. Sean reaches out to a pack of homeless teenage runaways he stumbles onto, quietly setting up the season's harder question of who exactly deserves a healer's hands and which ones he gets to choose. And Kyle's lost hours keep getting more frequent and harder to hide. This is the one everything's been building toward. At the center, Collier sings a lullaby to baby Isabelle while her parents watch and squirm. Then Maya has a vision and says it plainly. Jordan Collier is going to be killed. Tom and Diana warn him. Collier, drunk on his own certainty, refuses protection. Sure, NTAC just wants to cage him. Tom chases down an anti-Collier blogger named Quinlan, who lost everything to the center's membership system and just bought a gun, and talks him off it. NTAC also serves Diana a subpoena for Maya's diary of predictions. They catch one assassin, a Dravit man, before the center's big reunion, and Collier decides the vision has been beaten. He is untouchable now. He even asks the infant Isabelle whether to go ahead, and she shows him a future where he wins. He gives his speech. A second sniper on the next rooftop, having knocked out 2 agents, puts several rounds in his chest. Tom chases and loses him. Sean rushes the stage and briefly brings Collier back, and with his last breath, Collier whispers about Isabelle. She told me to go through with it. She lies. At the funeral, the body is right there in the casket. Sean delivers the eulogy, and then the casket is empty. And by a pond that night, a hand drops the murder weapon into the water. The hand belongs to Kyle Baldwin. Tom's own son, moving under the future's orders, is the man who killed Jordan Collier. Tom wakes into a world where the abductions never happened. New wife named Alana, a son who never went into a coma and is now a thriving medical student, a Collier who's a living governor with an art museum instead of a movement. Nobody's ever heard of the 4400, not even Diana, who tells him he was recently captured undercover, tortured for 3 weeks, and betrayed by a man named Doherty. It feels like relief until it feels like a cage. There's a sealed lab door he keeps circling, a room that shatters every time Alana wakes him. He hunts hunts the 4400 online and finds nothing, then tracks down Maya and meets an old stranger who doesn't know him. Diana, alarmed, sedates and restrains him to help. Then Alana admits she remembers the real world too, and together they try to claw their way out, even taking out a newspaper ad about the 4400. Years pass in a montage. Tom builds an entire life inside the lie, renews his vows, takes over NTAC from a resigning Nina, sends his son off to Stanford until a dream of Kyle being arrested drives him back to that door one last time. He opens it and finds the truth. Alana is a 4400 who builds immersive imaginary worlds, and the future compelled her to build him this one. A sanctuary, a place to gather strength because his real life is about to fall apart. The Alana he loves here is only a program, and only the real Alana, who remembers none of it, can let him out. He persuades her. He wakes back in the real world and meets the real Alana for the first time. Back home, only about a day has passed. An entire Oregon town turns up dead, organs liquefied by a virus that vanishes within the hour. The only person missing is a terrified returnee named Jean, who grows toxin spores on her hands and releases death every time she's afraid. Reading Revelation alone, she decides she isn't cursed. She's chosen, a messiah sent to purify humanity. Her truck driver dies. Hazmat suits collapse trying to take her at a motel, proving nothing protects anyone. She phones Tom and Diana, swearing she'll end it before she hurts a soul, then heads for a crowd in downtown Portland, ready to cleanse it instead, and Diana shoots her before she can. Meanwhile, the center dispatches a handler named Ross to manage Sean, buried now under mountains of letters begging to be healed. Ross admits Collier always meant to reveal Sean's power in stages, and hints he has replacement healers on standby. Lily proposes a foundation, a committee that picks one person a day for Sean to heal, and he puts her on it. And back home, Diana leaves Maya with her freewheeling sister April, who crosses a hard line, using the girl's precognition to gamble, and even betting Diana's engagement ring, then blaming Maya when it loses. Kyle's memory finishes clicking into place. He knows, fully now, that he is the one who pulled the trigger on Collier. A returnee named Edwin can repair damaged chromosomes in unborn babies, curing birth defects in the womb. A miracle nurse, spotted when one curious doctor notices his name on every impossible recovery. Then a leak from the center, ordered by Ross, puts his face on the news, and a woman calls him a murderer. He was a pediatrician in Rwanda during the genocide, a Hutu whose patients were mostly Tutsi, forced by the militia to broadcast his clinic as a Tutsi safe house, and then lure the patients who trusted him in to be slaughtered. NTAC has to weigh the children he saves now against the ones he doomed then, and there's no clean math for it. A grieving woman outside collapses and dies of a heart attack, and Tom nearly attacks Edwin before Diana pulls him off. Worse, every healing tears Edwin's own body apart. Keep saving children and die, or be extradited and die. He chooses the children, and to do it from the center. Elsewhere, Richard buries a Korean War wingmate and confronts the officer who abused him just before his abduction. Diana, done with April, kicks her out, then chases her bus down to hand back the engagement ring she bought out of Hawk and tell her sister she isn't giving up on her. And Kyle, unraveling, tells his cousin Danny he's in trouble, agrees to hide at the center, then leaves his father a note and vanishes instead, never going. Two hunts run in parallel now. NTAC traces the murder weapon toward Collier's killer, and Tom races to reach his son first. A witness names the gun seller Rios, and Rios' wife confirms the sketch, which keeps looking more and more like Kyle, buyer of the rifle and a handgun both. Tom follows the trail through Kyle's college, through a professor's account of the blackouts, and a hidden key tagged 52 in the closet, opening the train station locker to find a satchel of cash, center literature, a clipping of Collier, and the handgun. He hands it to Alana to hide before forensics dust the lockers. Then he follows his ex-wife Linda to a dark house under remodel and finds Kyle hiding upstairs, who confesses everything: the lost time, the killing. Tom chooses his son over the law and books him a noon flight to Brussels. Then NTAC arrests another man matching the sketch, an innocent named Marsden, who grabs an officer's gun and nearly shoots Tom and Diana before he's subdued. With Marsden framed as the killer, Tom cancels the flight, and he and Kyle throw the satchel of evidence off a bridge into a stream. At the center, Sean catches Danny and the street kid Liv in a restricted area and demotes her, and the crack between the Farrell brothers widens. Diana tells Maya it's over. The killer's caught. Maya says, not yet. It opens on a flash forward. Diana, a sick Maya, and a handful of women barricaded in the NTAC gym, while the door caves in and Tom bursts through, and he and Diana aim guns at each other. Rewind 10 hours. It's Collier's birthday, and a taunting email lands, noting he died on NTAC's watch. Maya has a strange rash spreading up her arm. Then a second email, a gift, and a signal only the men can hear. A 4400 rage bomb that strips every male agent of impulse control and turns them animal. They start tearing each other apart. Agent Park shoots Nina Jarvis in the shoulder. Tom seals the building in a full lockdown. Tom, dosed on Alana's calming pills, stays lucid enough to hold on while the women barricade in the lab and then the gym. And Dr. Hudson tranquilizes himself just enough to treat Jarvis, making Diana promise to shoot him if he slips. Diana sedates the 4,400 women in custody. Sure, one of them is the source, but the signal keeps coming. Marco finally broadcasts a counter signal that ends it. The real culprit, a returnee named Kim, slips away with a note. Payback is a bitch. Along the way, Burkhoff, who once called the center a scam, gets talked into joining it to help build the tech to make more 4400, and Maya's rash is spreading. In the last beat, Sean fails to heal a blind woman, then finds the same rash creeping across his own skin. Even the healer. The rash becomes a plague. Returnees worldwide fall to the same immune collapse, and Ryland returns to take command and orders every 4,400 tested, moving toward quarantine, the very confinement the 4400 swore they'd never endure again. Alana, sick now, starts mixing up realities, wandering into the 4400 center thinking it's the art museum from her imaginary world, and Tom finds the rash on her too. Sean, sick himself and unable to heal, hides it, makes Lily swear to keep his failure secret, leaves Richard in charge of the center, and reports to Camp Decker. Richard tells the cameras the truly sick should quarantine and the healthy should stay clear. Diana notices page 5 of Maya's medical file has gone missing, then returns, then comes back with 2 lines blacked out. Someone is hiding something. Kyle, dragged by guilt, visits the framed Marsden's vandalized house and helps fix it, until the brother pickpockets his wallet, outs his real name and his NTAC father, and gets him thrown out. Richard and Lily learn the center really has been testing Isabelle, and Ross talks Richard into allowing it by warning that if the government finds her, they lose her for good. So Tom and Diana smuggle the blood work to Dr. Burkhoff, and he delivers the gut punch. The 4,400 aren't sick with a disease. They're suffering the side effect of a chemical inhibitor sitting in every one of their veins, something NTAC has known about the entire time. Tom and Diana read the unredacted page and confirm it. NTAC caused this. Burkhoff spells it out. NTAC secretly dosed every returnee with a Promisin inhibitor to suppress the neurotransmitter behind their abilities, and the plague is what that poison does over time. Worse, some 4,400 grew powers anyway, which is what spooked the people in charge, who now care more about burying the memo than curing the dying. Kyle, sick that the innocent Marsden has taken a plea deal, writes a full confession saying he was not acting of his own will and prepares to turn himself in. Dr. Hudson turns up an apparent suicide, leaving a note pointing at the firewall memo. The memos were all shredded, so the lead looks dead, until Marco remembers Ryland couldn't type and dictated everything to an assistant named Jane, who quit in disgust and kept a copy and has been waiting for them. She hands it over. Tom confronts Ryland with it. Ryland tries to blackmail him with proof that NTAC knew Kyle killed Collier, but Kyle's already confessing, so the leverage is gone and the conspirators fall. Burkhoff can synthesize a cure if he can find one 4,400 never dosed. Isabelle qualifies, born free of the inhibitor, and because she's still a baby, Richard can draw only enough pure Promisin for a single shot. They give it to Sean, and his healing roars back, and he begins curing the sick en masse, each cure yielding more serum. The plague breaks, then the closing shocks. Isabelle is gone from her crib, and a grown naked woman appears in Sean's office saying she is Isabelle, aged 2 decades overnight. Burkhoff injects the serum into his own arm, though he's no 4400. And on a distant beach, bearded and dazed and not knowing his own name, Jordan Collier is alive. Maya says it best. The war is just beginning. First thing it does is age a baby into a grown woman. Isabelle Tyler, infant at the last cut, is now a beautiful 20-year-old, and the cost lands on her mother. Lily has aged decades in the same instant, 75 now, fading fast. Richard has a wife dying of time and a daughter who came from nowhere, and he can barely look at either miracle. Isabelle takes to adulthood strangely, preferring to be constantly naked, which rattles Sean, while Richard tears through every idea for saving Lily and finds nothing. Meanwhile, Tom Tom and Diana catch a new problem calling itself the Nova Group, a radical 4400 faction hunting the bureaucrats behind last season's inhibitor scandal. Starting with Dennis Ryland. In a broadcast, Nova promises the world a demonstration of their power on October 19th. NTAC brings in the telepath Gary Navarro to help crack it, then discovers the twist. Gary is Nova's mastermind. They arrest him. He says nothing about October 19th. Worse, Sean Farrell has been quietly funding Nova for months, never knowing what his money paid for. He helps NTAC arrest his own contact, and it buys them nothing. October 19th stays a black box. Down in the school wing, Maya starts attending class at the center, off the inhibitor now, drowning in precognitive visions she cannot steer. Diana tries to steady her. Sean walks Isabelle through the guilt of a mother she is about to lose, and Richard takes Lily to their old cabin for one last afternoon, where she dies at peace. When October 19th finally arrives, the demonstration turns out to be no attack at all. It is a public show of what the 4400 could do for the world. Salvation, dressed as a threat. The question the whole season will chew on. A Nova shapeshifter named Boyd Gelder murders a man while wearing Tom's face, and just like that, Tom is the most wanted man in his own building. Nina Jarvis wants him brought in. Diana talks her into a conversation first, then finds Tom at gunpoint in his own home. He swears he never left the house. She lets him dress. He goes out the bathroom window. On the run, Tom races his own double, who now targets Alana. Two Toms call her phone. To prove which one is real, Tom offers a password, Death in Venice, and pulls Sean into the center's database until he has a name, Boyd Gelder. When Diana meets Tom in a park, Boyd wears her face and opens fire on both of them before vanishing. Then he walks into Tom's house wearing the password but no house key, and Alana clocks the tell. Boyd takes her hostage anyway, demands the real Tom come sign a suicide note. Alana cracks a vase over Boyd's skull. Tom arrives, and the two identical men brawl until the only difference left is blood. Boyd is bleeding. Boyd goes to a cell. Underneath it all, Isabelle works through a list of childhood things she never got to do. Teaching herself to swim, learning to drive, pushing Sean for sex he keeps refusing. Diana visits Kevin Burkhoff and learns his kidneys have failed. He has doubled his Promisin dose, and injectable Promisin is about to hit the black market. He shoves a scalpel through his hand and heals it clean. A preview of everything coming. And with a nudge from Matthew Ross, Isabelle waits for Sean in a green dress with new green eyes, and Sean finally stops saying no. A woman turns up claiming to be Sarah Rutledge, Maya's long-lost sister, born after the abduction. Diana wrestles with fitting another Rutledge into her life. Then the woman takes Maya and runs. She is no sister. She is an agent from the future, sent to collect Maya and a handful of other 4,400 children and reseed them back into the past. The cruelty is in the fine print. Once taken, every child is erased from the memory of everyone who ever knew them, gone like they never breathed. Nobody left to remember there was anything to mourn. Elsewhere, Sean leaves the safety of the center to heal people out in the community and gets attacked for it. Left standing, but warned. Nova claims the hit and promises worse is coming for his betrayal. The retaliation is already loaded. The future erases the children, but it cannot fully erase Tom and Diana. Piece by piece, they remember Maya. They even trace where the taken kids were sent and find each one nudged humanity forward. Mercies that fix nothing, because the kids are still gone. Desperate, Diana uses Alana's ability to slip into an alternate reality where Maya still exists, and decides to stay there forever, knowing the strain will kill her in weeks. So, Tom plays the ultimate game of chicken with the future itself. He attempts suicide, betting he matters too much to their plan to lose. It works. The future makes a deal. Return the children, and Tom owes them one task. The kids come home. Diana comes home. Then Tom opens the envelope they left him. Inside, a syringe and two words: kill Isabelle. Back at the center, Nova offers to lift the bounty on Sean in exchange for a meeting with Richard. On Sean and Matthew Ross's advice, Richard refuses, so Nova takes its revenge on Sean instead. Their man, Daniel Armand, reaches into his mind and drops him into paranoid, hallucinating madness. Tom dreams of Diana leading him to a holding cell. Isabelle in an orange jumpsuit, the order to inject. He does. She screams. Then he wakes buried in paperwork. The syringe is eating him alive, and he has not even used it. Sean, still broken, has been cutting his own hands hunting for a bug that is not there. Out in the gardens, Maya crashes into him and falls, crying, and Sean tries to heal her, but his gift runs backwards in his shattered state. Her face goes blue, her life draining, until security tears him off while he insists he was making her better. Then Isabelle, packing to pull Sean from the hospital, gets cornered by Matthew Ross, reminding her of her purpose. She says it flat. She is meant to eliminate the 4400. And when he tries to stop her leaving, she simply turns and kills him, blood welling in his eyes as he drops. She phones Richard with a name, Daniel Armand, the man breaking Sean. Isabelle finds Armand first and forces him to let go, and Sean snaps back to himself. Richard talks his way in to walk them both out clean. Released for lack of evidence, Isabelle returns to find Tom at her desk, needle ready, asking why anyone would want her dead. She offers her wrist. He raises the needle, then relents. Not yet, not until he is sure. And in the final beat, Isabelle walks into Haspel Corp to meet Dennis Ryland. Her secret alliance begins. NTAC raids a house for Gary Navarro and misses him by minutes. Someone tipped him off. Meanwhile, the NSA drags Alana in for questioning, and Tom learns Haspel Corp has been hired to hunt anyone linked to Nova, with Ryland running it and Alana on his list. The tip that saved Gary came from Heather Toby's office at the center, except Heather was teaching a class, and the only other person with a key was Alana. When she is released, she admits it to Tom. She made the call. She thought Gary was only protecting the 4400. The NSA arrests Heather for it instead, so Alana turns herself in to spare her. Tom, still in love with Alana, cuts a deal with Ryland. Freedom for Alana in exchange for Gary. He and Diana capture Gary. Then, at the handoff, Tom double-crosses Ryland and escapes with both of them, and every one of them is a fugitive now. He says goodbye to Alana at the end. She disappears with Gary. At the center, Nikki Hudson drifts back into Sean's life, and Sean pushes her away because Isabelle's jealousy plus Isabelle's powers is a math problem that ends in a funeral. A girl named Erica jumps to her death fleeing a hallucination of the uncle who molested her. Except the uncle is in prison. She had a new street drug in her blood called Blink, laced with Promisin, which means it was cooked from a 4400 ability. Then Tom eats cookies he thinks came from Diana, starts seeing his dead father Mitch, and realizes he has been dosed too. Diana never sent them and got a basket of her own. She starts seeing Josh, the ex-fiancé who cheated on her before the wedding. An elderly 4400, Naomi Bonderman, explains it. The oil from her hands makes the hallucinogen, and someone stole plants from her garden. The drug forces you to face the people you never made peace with, and they do not leave until you do. So Tom finally forgives his father. Diana realizes she only ever stayed with safe men who could not hurt her, and ends it with Marco. The culprit is Naomi's grandson Randy, who never meant harm and sent the cookies as thanks for saving the 4400, thinking his grandmother's gift could help people. At the center, Isabelle decides she and Sean should marry, and her mind is made up. She confesses she fears she was sent back to do things that could kill millions, and that Sean is the only thing keeping her human. Seeing no other way, he tries to drain her life while she sleeps. She wakes untouched. His gift does not work on her. The wedding is on. A withered, monstrous Kevin Burkhoff runs from Haspel Corp agents, his body ravaged by his own Promisin. They catch him, press him on whether he has injected anyone else, and shoot him when he says only himself. He heals and escapes, because that is what Promisin does when it does not kill you. Diana, alarmed he is missing, finally confesses to NTAC that she has been helping Kevin's experiment in secret. They chase him to Tess Dorner, an old fellow patient from Abinson, who swears she has not seen him while he hides in her home. That night, Diana wakes at her own front door with Tess standing there. Tess has been using her ability to walk Diana to Kevin so he could inject her with Promisin without her knowing, over his own guilt at doing it without consent. NTAC pulls the Promisin out of Diana's blood just in time. Kevin and Tess vanish, and Kevin sheds his monstrous skin, brand new underneath. Meanwhile, Sean befriends an aging rock legend after saving him from an overdose, until the man uses Sean's healing as an excuse to keep living recklessly, and Sean walks away. Richard goes to Heather to sharpen his telekinesis, and the quiet bombshell. Isabelle, unknown to anyone, is secretly stockpiling Promisin for Haspel Corp. Both sides of this war are now hers to feed. A dead-eyed man named Darren Pearsall kills a young man with a touch, leaving a body dried and oxidized. Damage only a 4400 could do. Except Pearsall is not a 4400 and is supposedly dead, killed in Iraq in 2005. He claims a second victim, and a partial print names a ghost. Marco finds the thread. Every victim carries the Starzl mutation, a harmless heritable quirk from a faulty hospital radiation machine. When Tom and Diana go for the list of carriers, Haspel Corp has already seized it. Then the floor drops out. The government has been secretly buying Promisin to build enhanced soldiers soldiers with 4,400 powers. John Schaffner, the man who died alongside Pearsall in Iraq, walks into NTAC and explains. They were both early recruits, and Pearsall is hunting Starzl carriers because a Starzl person plus a 4400 makes a child with an ability. That is why the future seeded the 4,400 into Seattle. To breed the next generation, Tom tracks Pearsall to a hideout. Pearsall kills Schaffner and attacks, and Tom kills him, but loses the only witness. It does not matter. Ryland is already on live TV, hailing his super soldiers as America's new heroes. At the center, a special cigar lets Sean glimpse the future. The first vision shows him killing Richard. A second shows something worse, a catastrophe come, Tom dying in Sean's arms. A third explains the first. Sean kills Richard because Richard starts a war, turning the 4,400 into his private army. And reeling from all of it, Sean arrives at his wedding to the biggest shock yet. Jordan Collier, alive. Jordan Collier stands in the crowd, long hair, full beard, utterly changed, and asks Sean a question that should be impossible. Do you know who I am? Then he runs, and a search finds nothing. Sean calls off his own wedding to help find him, betting Collier is the key to sparing Isabelle her terrible purpose. Tom tells Kyle in prison that Jordan is alive, which means Kyle killed no one. They find where Jordan has been living, and a journal in his handwriting. It describes the future. One city left, the rest of Earth a wasteland, and one line written again and again. The war for the future will be fought in the past. The trail leads to a homeless camp where they call him the Preacher, his face already spray-painted in mosaics all over the country. Jordan turns himself in through Kyle's cell, but cannot remember his own name, only that he has lived for hundreds, maybe thousands of years and watched the world die. So NTAC uses Alana, dropping her charges in exchange to restore his memory. And Jordan wakes fully himself, declaring he knows why the 4400 came back and what they must do. When the government buries his return, Tom leaks his photo to the press and the crowds force his release. Jordan gets Kyle's charges dropped, freeing Tom's son at last. Then Jordan turns on Isabelle. She hopes he can save her from herself, and he tells her she cannot fight what she is, the enemy of the 4400 and everything good, and orders her gone forever. She threatens to kill him. He dares her. She backs down. Meanwhile, Diana's sister April visits with a new boyfriend, Ben, and Maya lets slip that Diana is the one meant to marry him. Diana warns Ben off. Ben breaks it off with April anyway, and Diana quietly realizes the feeling runs both ways. Jordan goes on television and lays out the future plainly. Humanity dying, a privileged elite sealed in the last city hoarding what is left, everyone else clawing through the wasteland. His message: 4,400 and ordinary people have to work together, or that is where it ends. Then a 4400 breaks into NTAC, puts everyone to sleep, and frees the captured Nova members. Sean learns Jordan coordinated it and means to use Nova to hit Ryland's soldier base, and warns Richard it will start a war. Richard says the war has been on since the day they return, and with Isabelle now working for Ryland, he is certain his own daughter will lead the strike against them. When Tom and Diana confront Jordan, he says the base story was only a loyalty test. Sean pledges himself, and Jordan shows his real hand. The base was a diversion. He has stolen Haspelcorp's entire Promisin stockpile. Gathered around it, Sean, Richard, Kevin, and Tess ask what he means to do. Destroy it. No, Jordan wants to give it away to absolutely everybody. Meanwhile, Kyle, sure, he will always be the man who shot Collier, hears from Jordan that his death had to happen and that he is part of a larger plan, and leaves to tour the country and tell his story, part of that plan, whether he knows it or not. And April discovers Diana has been seeing Ben behind her back. A center employee named Devon Moore injects herself with Promisin on camera, and the video floods the internet. Ordinary people are about to get abilities, she says, and that is the road to a better world. NTAC searches the center and finds nothing. No Devon, no stolen Promisin, and Jordan plays innocent. On her way out, Diana pulls Maya from the school, and at home, Ben asks Diana and Maya to come to Spain for 6 months. She says she will think about it. Then Devon convulses and dies. NTAC catches Sean at the scene as Kevin and Tess flee. Tom drags the truth out of Ryland. Half the super soldier volunteers died within 48 hours. Promisin is a coin flip, 50-50, live or die. Ryland hid it, hoping the bodies would turn Collier from savior into killer. When Sean refuses to betray Jordan, Isabelle arrives with a military escort, admits she armed Ryland to force a standoff where no one dared use it, and then tortures Sean into talking and leaves him in a coma. Ryland and Isabelle raid the hangar. But the Promisin is fake, and Collier is Boyd Gelder in disguise, luring her into a detonator. She walks out of the fire unscathed and heads for the center to start killing until the real Jordan shows himself. At an underpass, the real Jordan hands backpacks of vials to his homeless followers, always with the warning, always a conscious choice. Isabelle enters Maya's classroom, where Maya sneaked back to school. Diana bursts in and shoots her. Tom's syringe fails until Richard telekinetically lifts it and drives it home. It does not kill her. It strips her powers away. Tom shoots her shoulder so she cannot heal. 3 days later, Diana comes by to say goodbye, leaving for Spain with Ben and Maya to raise her daughter in peace, done with the war. And the future keeps turning. Kyle sits in a motel, loading a syringe of Promisin. NTAC padlocks the 4400 center. Alana vanishes in a ball of light, and April Skouris stands in line for her shot. Salvation or threat, still unanswered, now offered to everyone. Months have passed and Jordan Collier's gamble has gone global. He handed Promisin to the public despite a coin flip death rate, and now the world is full of newly empowered people. Collier hides out, haunted, wondering if the future he saved is actually any better. In Seattle, Tom Baldwin welcomes his son Kyle home, though Tom's girlfriend Alana has been missing for 3 months, and Tom quietly fears she was taken again. Diana Skouris gets pulled back from her quiet life in Spain when her estranged sister April turns up on a list of people handed Promisin's syringes. NTAC has a new director, Megan Doyle, a political appointee with no cop instincts, who slips Tom a visit to the now powerless Isabelle Tyler in prison. Isabelle only tells him they used him, and that he doesn't want to know what she knows. Out at Stevenson High, an unremarkable C student named Graham takes the shot and gains the power to make everyone worship him as a messiah. Students tear down the school statue and build one of him. Converted police start arresting people and delivering them to him by the hundreds. He declares himself King of Seattle, and the government readies airstrikes on an American city. Then, Collier simply walks in, lays hands on Graham, and switches his power off. He solved in a minute what the entire government couldn't. Meanwhile, Kyle keeps meeting a girl named Cassie, who isn't registered at any school and doesn't seem to exist anywhere at all. Ordinary people at a Seattle bank start suffering sudden, uncontrollable terror. Clowns, contamination, claustrophobia. Tom wrangles a temporary badge back out of Megan, privately admitting he's only in it to find his vanished sister. NTAC ties every victim to one ATM in one narrow morning window. The real source is an autistic boy named Brandon, whose father secretly dosed him with Promisin, hoping he'd finally speak. Instead, when Brandon gets scared, he projects everyone's deepest fear straight into their skull, and he wanders off spreading it until NTAC sedates him. Sean Farrell, Kyle's cousin, heals the boy and undoes the damage. But the real story is Cassie. She leads Kyle to a house tied to a cult founded back in 1918, whose scripture depicts a resurrected Messiah handing out a sacred elixir, a healer, and a shaman. The Messiah looks like Collier. The healer is Sean. The shaman is Kyle. He wants no part of any of it. So Cassie tells him the truth she's been circling all along. She isn't a real person. She's his ability, walking and talking beside him. Kyle introduces her to Tom, and she says it plainly, "I'm Kyle's ability." An elderly woman named Audrey takes Promisin, and her soul learns to leave her body and drift through the world unseen, young again. She spends her second life blogging about how wonderful Promisin is, which terrifies Washington, so Megan sends Tom and Diana to shut her up. Then Audrey turns up dead of a morphine overdose, except she doesn't stay quiet. Her disembodied signal keeps riding the electronics, following Diana, who has quietly come to admire her, until Marco cleans up a garbled voicemail and hears one word: murdered. Meanwhile, Sean reopens the 4400 center and vows to heal anyone who shows up on opening day. When police move to arrest him, a crowd of the sick forms a wall around him, and Megan orders the cops to stand down. She also defies Washington and lets Sean heal her own dying father. Audrey spends her last flicker of energy to name her killer, her nurse's teenage son, who slipped her too much morphine while robbing her. Then she fades out for good at her own funeral. And Cassie, pushing Kyle to study the white light book, points him to a 2 a.m. intersection, where he watches a van crash and Isabelle Tyler climb out of the wreckage. Diana finally finds her sister. April took Promisin and came out the wrong kind of gifted. Anyone she questions is compelled to tell her the truth, and she's been using it to blackmail strangers and live large without a shred of guilt, telling Diana to go back to Spain and stop feeling sorry about the affair April blames for driving her to the shot. Then her boyfriend boyfriend gets murdered, and suddenly she needs Diana. Using April's power, NTAC unravels a corporate board member who ordered the hit to bury a defective military body armor scam. April forces a full confession out of him, then chooses to come forward and sacrifice her freedom, only for NTAC to hire her as a Promisin positive interrogator instead. Elsewhere, an anti-4,400 senator asks Sean to run for city council as a moderate counterweight to Collier's radicals. And the price is that Sean go on camera and name Collier's 50-50 death rate as reckless. Sean pays it, and Isabelle finishes decrypting that old cult book. The Chosen are 200 real living people, politicians and scientists, who all must take Promisin to trigger a chain reaction that supposedly ends in paradise. The last name on the list is Tom Baldwin. Cassie warns Kyle his father knows he took the shot and sends him north to an old logging town. At home, Maya keeps seeing a vision of a prison camp where people with abilities are lined up and marched away. Tom chases the last ping of Kyle's phone for hours and reaches Evston, an abandoned mill town rebuilt by Promisin takers who just want to live without getting arrested. The locals stonewall him and keep telling him to try the pie. Then they clap a bracelet on his wrist that lets any resident zap him with pain if he tries to leave. Kyle has brought Collier and Isabelle here, presenting himself as the shaman and Collier as the messiah. The town works its charms on Tom. A resident pulls his anxiety out and leaves it as a small stone in his palm. The pie, it turns out, is laced with something that lets everyone relive each other's memories, and Tom drifts through warm scenes, including his own childhood championship game his father actually came to. Kyle makes his pitch: take the shot, live here together, and you'll survive, because your name's in the book. Tom can't do it. Half of everyone who takes it dies. When he tries to leave, and the bracelet lights him up, Kyle sedates his own father, so Collier's group can vanish. Meanwhile, Sean, convinced Maya's nightmare shows a pundit named Hewitt becoming a homegrown Hitler, confronts the man, whose own Promisin test comes back negative for now. Tom wakes abandoned and puts out an APB on his own son. Collier calls Evston a dress rehearsal for paradise and promises Kyle that one day Tom will come to them by choice. Curtis Peck, an original 4400, makes cheap conspiracy films that turn out to be his ability dramatizing real hidden truths. Now Curtis has gone missing, leaving behind a video journal where he warns that something worse than Collier is coming. Tom and Diana search Curtis's ransacked house and track down his last project, a trailer for a film called The Mark. 10 future agents, body jumped into powerful hosts, each carrying an X behind the left ear, sent back to destroy the 4400 and erase their effect on the timeline. Their meeting was convened by Drew Imroth, CEO of Ubient Software. The producer who shows them the trailer turns up dead, staged as a suicide. Tom and Diana visit Imroth, who charmingly lets them check behind his ear, revealing exactly that X-shaped mark. That night, Tom emails a case summary to Washington. The next morning, he's slapped into a 72-hour psychiatric hold for a supposed breakdown, and nobody can get him out. While he's locked up, Curtis surfaces alive in the theory room, where Marco hides him and learns the marked have no powers of their own, are cut off from the future, and met just once in Tunis. When Tom is finally released, he finds a fresh X behind his own ear, and realizes the marked implanted one of their own inside him during the hold. Curtis suddenly quits, claiming he made the whole thing up, clearly gotten to. The episode ends with the entity now living in Tom reporting in. Baldwin thinks it's a mind game. When we need him, he'll be there for us. Collier is ready to make his move, and Maya sees it coming in a vision of Kyle standing beside him. NTAC traces her drawing to the Duwamish River Delta, a poisoned stretch of South Seattle. Sean's campaign gets rocked by a Sex for Miracles smear, until the woman admits lawyers from back east paid her to set him up. Collier walls off a square mile with beacons that violently repel anyone who tries to cross, then broadcasts to the world. He's annexing this toxic zone, healing its soil and water with 4,400 abilities, and welcoming anyone willing to take Promisin. He names it Promise City, claims a string of small disasters worldwide as demonstrations of his scattered gifted, and promises severe consequences to anyone who attacks. Washington sends in a unit of camouflage super soldiers to assassinate him over Megan's objections. Tom and Diana defy the military to pull their kids out, and Maya watches a 4400 purify the filthy river to drinkable clarity. Kyle refuses to surrender, now openly serving as Collier's advisor. Still, still chasing the prophecy that ends in heaven on earth once everyone takes the shot, and reminding Tom his name closes the survivor list. Tom calls it what it is: genocide. Collier lets everyone leave and shuts off the beacon, then, as punishment for the soldier attack, doubles the size of Promise City overnight. Tom and Diana wake up inside a sealed, deserted NTAC building with holes in their memory. Communications dead, exits welded shut, weapons gone, scattered colleagues turn up, and so, elsewhere, do Kyle, Sean, and Isabelle equally lost. Then, the building starts killing people. Megan is electrocuted by a door. Sean is cut down by a window shattering in a freak gust. Tom blames Collier, who's trapped in here too. Finally, an analyst named PJ confesses. He took Promisin, and his power drags people into a shared dream where they must cooperate to survive some obstacle. This time, the obstacle is the building itself. There's always a back door at the farthest point from where he woke, and as they head for it, Tom and Collier tear into each other over Promisin and their estranged sons. But the door is PJ's childhood bedroom, and only he can walk through. He refuses to leave anyone behind. The room heats up and starts suffocating them, so Marco rigs a plan to short the whole thing out by joining two power relays. With no cord long enough, Collier and Tom finish the circuit with their own bodies. Everyone wakes up in the real world, alive, Sean and Megan included. Their deaths only ever inside the game. Nothing's changed. Tom still swears he'll arrest him, but he calls him Jordan. And for these two, that's a thaw. Isabelle's estranged father, Richard, comes to Promise City, apologizing for being a lousy dad, and everyone lets their guard down. Then he knocks Isabelle out and abducts her. His plan is a quiet horror. Using a 4400, who can reverse aging, delivered through the water he keeps handing her, he means to turn Isabelle back into a small child so she can start over and forget every terrible thing she's done. Rebuild the family he lost. Meanwhile, Kevin Burkhoff calls Sean for help. Tess is spiraling, holding a diner hostage, forcing exhausted strangers to dance at a delusional party while she waits for a dead boyfriend named Bobby. Sean poses as Bobby, takes her hands, and heals her mind. Kyle defies Collier and goes after Isabelle, and when Richard throws him telekinetically across the room, Isabelle sees a boy risk his life for her and refuses the final dose. Tom arrives and, rather than arrest Richard, lets him and Isabelle go. Family over the law, the same choice he keeps making for Kyle. Then Diana reaches behind Tom's ear. The ex is back. His eyes flash, and he says one word: Daddy. Kevin Burkhoff cracks something huge. 9 out of 10 left-handed people survive the shot because their brains are built a certain way, and a simple scan could soon predict who lives before they ever take Promisin. It could end the 50-50 slaughter. Sean begs Collier to tell people to wait for the test. Collier flatly refuses. A world split into positives and negatives, he argues, ends in Inquisition or Holocaust. Only universal Promisin, one generation of sacrifice, gets you a fully evolved species. At NTAC, a national intelligence director named Rebecca Parrish takes over the hunt for the Tylers and privately visits Tom's home, all but confirming she's marked and urging him to stop fighting it. And Tom stops fighting it. He wakes up proclaiming himself one of us, the future entity now speaking through him, disgusted by the present. He fakes being his old self well enough to fool everyone, even staging a mind control prank to sell it. Kyle, pressured, phones in Richard and Isabelle's location. Tom raids it. Isabelle flees, and Richard is caged on the inhibitor. Isabelle wakes in a captor's house, told her father goes free, only if she takes her powers back and delivers Jordan Collier to the marked. Somebody starts crashing ATMs and computer networks worldwide, printing Collier-style manifestos, and every infected machine runs Ubiant software. The demand is simple: destroy Ubiant. Tom, fully marked now, and ordered to get rid of Burkhoff before that survival test can happen, gets deferential toward Imroth in a way that tips Diana off hard, and lab work confirms her fear. Blood from a broken glass at Tom's home is a partial match to Tom. She and Megan quietly agree. He's marked. They'll act normal and hunt for a cure. The attacker turns out to be Warren Trask, a programmer Imroth cheated decades ago, now in a vegetative state on computer-run life support, taking his revenge through the networks. NTAC can't move him until morning. That night, a stolen car slams into a pole nearby, kills the power, and Trask's life support fails. The attacks stop, and Tom has a fresh head wound he lies about. Meanwhile, Collier holds Burkhoff captive to stop the test, and the marked force Isabelle to take her powers back and plant a kill switch that ends her if she disobeys. And the marked decide Imroth is now a liability, so they'll transfer the entity to a new host. Their chosen next body is Jordan Collier. Diana and Megan slip off to Vancouver to squeeze Curtis Peck, the one man who understands how the marked work. Marking, he explains, means injecting fluid full of tiny machines into the spine, nanites. And the only way to burn them out is exposing the host to a whisper of something wildly radioactive, like polonium, which would kill the host too. Megan gets her hands on a degrading sample. Tom, still working the cure trail for his masters, ambushes Maya at her bus stop, pumps her for information, and secretly doses her drink with enough inhibitor to kill her visions for weeks. Then he murders Curtis Peck to close the plot hole. At Promise City, Sean breaks Burkhoff out of Collier's custody, and Burkhoff scans Sean's brother Danny and judges his survival odds excellent. Isabelle, stalling, finally moves. She delivers Collier to the Marked, who sedate him to mark him, planning to make him a traitor who will use his own power to strip Promisin from every positive and gut his own movement from inside. Danny collapses the people around him with an ability he can't control, and Diana corners Tom at gunpoint. He tells her flatly she won't pull the trigger and turns to leave as she screams at him to stop. Diana shoots him. Sean is rushed in to heal Tom, but first they inject polonium straight into his spine to kill the nanites. Tom flatlines. Sean brings him back. The entity is burned out, and the real Tom Baldwin is finally home, drowning in guilt over the murders he committed while he wasn't himself. Then, catastrophe. At a Seattle hospital, people start dying of Promisin exposure by the dozen, then the 100. The cause is Danny Farrell, whose uncontrolled ability is pumping Promisin through the air like a virus. It rolls outward through the hospital, the neighborhood, the first responders, City Hall, the police, and into NTAC itself. Half of the exposed die, half get abilities. Tom's sister is among the dead. Roughly 9,000 people are gone, which means 9,000 new positives, many of them cops and paramedics and NTAC agents. Tom helps cure the marked Collier with the same polonium, restoring him, and Collier hands Tom a list of the remaining marked and agrees to mend fences with Sean. Burkhoff discovers Kyle is immune because his body overproduces a common enzyme, one you can buy over the counter and hand out to blunt the death toll. So the center, the government, and Promise City start distributing the pills together. Parrish orders Isabelle to murder Kyle, now the movement's leader. She can't. She tells him he has a good heart, says goodbye, and spares him, and the kill switch ends her for it. Danny, in agony as Promisin builds in his inhibited body, begs Sean to end his suffering, then dies pleading to be the last victim. The government writes Seattle off under armed quarantine and sends no help for days. The only working authority left is Collier's Promisin-positive militia, the one group death can't touch, and a broken NTAC realizes it cannot arrest thousands of positives, including its own people. So they let Collier's people run the city. Collier addresses Seattle. The dead were heralds of a new age. Thousands of the newly gifted will join him, and this whole city is now his movement's home. Maya, positive now, turns to her horrified mother and says it's better this way. We're in charge now, and Tom, buried under the weight of what he did, asks how he's supposed to move on. Kyle says, "Dad, it's time," and the screen freezes on 2 words. To be continued, except it never was. The show was canceled, and that freeze frame is where it ends. Forever. No reckoning with Collier's Seattle. No cure carried to the last of the mark. No answer to the question the whole series was built on. Were the 4,400 a gift or a warning? Were they sent back to save the future? Or were they the catastrophe the future was trying to prevent? The story never got to decide. 4,400 people vanished, came home with powers they didn't ask for, and spent 4 seasons trying to figure out whether they were miracles or monsters. And the moment the answer finally mattered, the world they'd remade got handed to the one man who always swore it was destiny. Half of Seattle dead, half of it transformed, a government looking away, and a father and son standing in the ruins deciding to be a family anyway. That's the last thing we ever see. Not an ending. A door left open into a room nobody would ever get to enter. If you want to see where this was going, drop a subscribe and stick around for the next one.